everyone out there, you've reached the Rock Office. Time to clock in and rock out. I'm your host, Bill Smith.
And I'm Kevin Davis.
Got a great episode ahead for you today. We have a special interview with Mr. Tom Keifer, the lead singer of Cinderella. He's a great guy. You're not going to want to miss that. Kevin?
And backed by popular demand, we've got our top 10 list coming at you this week. We're going to be covering the top hard rock albums of the 80s. We're giving both of us, we're going to give our top 5. You can check out the top 10 on our website at www.therockoffice.com.
All right, well, let's just get into it then.
Let's do it.
All right.
Go ahead, start it off. Tell me what you got.
All right, my number 5, a band some people might not be familiar with. They're one of my favorites. It's The Cult. It's Sonic Temple, 1989. Bob Rock produced it. So many great hits. Sun King, Fire Woman, Sweet Soul Sister. Album front to back is great. I remember having the cassette when I was a kid. Top 5.
It's a little light on me for hard rock. I mean, I would give it a definite rock, but I wasn't sure about a hard rock. I went at it from a little bit more of a hard rock standpoint. My number 5 is Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. Now, this one, in my eyes, is, in fact, one of the best albums of the 80s, hard rock. Definitely is hard rock. Run to the Hills, you know, that was a great song, not to mention the album cover song, you know. When you look at bands, Bruce Dickinson, you know, just stepped in there. You're talking about a band that, you know, wasn't quite so sure what was going on at the time. And, you know, when they got in there, they put this album down. I'm sure there was a lot of people that weren't sure what was going to come out of it, and I think that it was one of the best albums of the 80s.
So that's an interesting pick because I didn't go that hard because I assumed that they're more heavy metal. So that's why I didn't throw in the Metallicas, the Priest, the Maidens. So
okay, well,
that's where I was coming, more just rock, harder rock.
Well,
so
then I guess we're going to have totally different lists.
I guess we are. So, all right. Well, my number 4 is, coincidentally, Cinderella's Long Cold Winter. Their second album, they totally sidestepped the sophomore slump. And this album, once again, front to back, there's not a weak track on it. It includes the monster hit, Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone, which was a staple on MTV and Airwaves back in the day. But more so than that, Cinderella is a great rock band. You listen to a lot of their peers at the time, and it sounds kind of cheesy and dated, but they're just a good blues rock band, a lot in the vein of like a Tesla, I would, you know, say a definite peer. Still out there, still doing it. You're going to hear from him a little bit, but number 4, Cinderella, Long Cold Winter.
Yeah, and I think that's a great choice right there. That's definitely in the realm of what we're talking about here today. Number 4, I went with some Van Halen, 1984. Now, this could be a little controversial pick. There's going to be some that are going to like it. There's going to be some that are going to hate it. It depends on whether you're a Diamond Dave fan or whether you're a Hagar fan. But I got to tell you, you know, this one had a lot of hits on it. You've got, you know, Hot for Teacher, Jump, Panama.
I'll wait.
It's phenomenal. I mean, you know, even to this day, you hear those songs come on the radio. You know, you're reaching for the knob. You want to turn them up. You know, and for the 80s, it was right up there. It was, in my opinion, definite top 10. In my case, top 5.
Well, this segues very nicely to my number 3, which is Van Halen, 5150.
Okay.
I am a Hagar fan. There make no qualms or bones about it. But for me, this album, they had so much to prove. Roth just left and went on his, as we now know, ill-fated solo career, if you will. Yes. But this album, you know, gets a lot of flack because there's a lot of keys, and Eddie kind of moved into that. But, you know, if you listen to 1984, the solo one, Jump, was a keyboard solo. I'll Wait, the entire intro was nothing but keyboard. So I don't really think that holds a lot of water. But this album, Dreams, you know, Hot Summer Nights, it's just the title track. It's just a great album front to back, and I really think this is where Van Halen as a band for me starts to step into their own. I think my favorite album of theirs is their first album, you know, with Diamond Dave, but for me, this is really where I started to become a fan of Van Halen. I started to appreciate not only them, but what Hagar brought to the band.
My number 3, I think you might personally know them, or at least not personally, but you are wearing their shirt. AC/DC, the actual Back in Black album. Now,
good choice.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, you want to talk about hard-hitting, hard rock. One of the best albums ever, if you know, if you're looking at it on a whole. The 4th best-selling album all time. And for it to come out in 1980s and for it to not be in the top 5 in this list.
Mutt Lange produced.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, all around, the whole album was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And you're talking also about another band that had a change in lead singer.
Yes.
Right at that same time. Yeah. And they came in.
Brian Johnson came in.
Yeah, and he came in. And they put it to
they
floor,
cooked it in the teeth.
Yeah,
yeah. That's a good choice.
Thank you.
All right. My number 2. There's really not much more I can say about this that hasn't been said. It said it was a game changer of an album, launched all these people into the stratosphere, not only as a band but now individually. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. And the thing about this album that's similar to my number 1 is the deep cuts are just as good, if not better, than the singles. Mr. Brownstone, Night Train, My Michelle. I mean, these weren't singles, but these are songs you hear on the radio now, and they are good. They stand the test. In the 80s, when Guns N' Roses came out with this album, there were bands that came before them, and then every band that came after was trying to play catch-up. And, say what you will for Mr. Rose and the rest of his cohorts at the time, but this album is so good, and there's not really anything else I can add that hasn't been said already. All right, Kevin, drop your deuce.
All right, my deuce, if you will. My number 2 spot is taken over by Def Leppard, Hysteria.
Yes.
Now, you want to talk about an album, much like Appetite for Destruction, whereas you've got an album that to this day,
oh God,
you get some of these songs coming on the radio, and you immediately recognize. You don't even have to, you don't even have to think about it. It's just
love me like a bomb.
It's just, yeah, exactly. Pour some sugar on me. They just, they resonate. And one of the cool parts as well is it even takes you back, back to those 80s. Where was I when I first heard this album?
Right.
And how big of a phenomenon was this album? I mean, it was huge.
Well, I'll piggyback because that is my number 1. Okay. First off, Mutt Lange's production is impeccable on this album, and you consider that they recorded this in the 80s when there was none of the Pro Tooling, there was none of the digital enhancement.
Oh, yeah.
It's flawless musicianship, flawless production. It is, and many people said this, I'm not the one that originated this quote, but it is the heavy metal equivalent of Thriller.
I agree.
There are 7 hits, top 40 hits off this album. It has sold over 20 million albums and counting. Mm-hmm. I love this album. To me, Hysteria, the song, is Def Leppard at their zenith. Yeah. And I could have easily chose Pyromania because, once again, Mutt Lange produced that.
Well,
it had
there's a lot that would, this is like a Halen as well, whereas
right.
It can be very easily debated because there's a lot of people who thought that the writing on this album wasn't that of Pyromania.
Well, the thing, and this is the thing that tipped the scales for me, and you of all people appreciate this. Rick Allen loses his arm, 1984.
Although I have both of mine.
Right. Kevin's a drummer. Comes back 3 years later, and what you get is the hard work, the ingenuity, the inventiveness that it took for him to create a drum set, and the kudos to his bandmates for not saying, hey, dude, sorry, we're moving on. They stuck with the guy. They said, hey, you're the guy. We're going to go. And then for this to be the fruit of their labor is,
oh, yeah.
I mean, the album speaks for itself.
And with all due respect to him, every time I ever think of him, and you can attest to this, I always pose that same question. Was he a better drummer before the accident?
Yeah, we've had this debate many times. Yeah.
And I personally, I think he was a better drummer after the accident. Yeah. And your comments there exactly for that same exact reason. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, good stuff.
Your number 1?
Number 1. Yeah.
Yes. Here we are.
And it kind of piggybacks off of your most recent pick there. Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. Great album. I mean, you're talking about probably the best debut album of all time. I mean, I know that could be debated as well.
Yeah.
But you're talking these guys. Now, everybody knows GNR, but this was when they were at their most infant, state. Yeah. This was before they screwed themselves up, with all the fighting, with all the drugs,
the imploding,
with the implosion, if you will. I mean, this was them at their finest. They were, it's their freshman, forte out into the world. And I tell you what, the 80s just ate this stuff up. I mean,
well, at the time, let's just be honest. In '87, mid '87, they came out. Everyone was looking the same. Everyone sounded the same. These guys came out and said, "Hey, This is rock.
This is rock, right.
A lot of that album, which really goes uncredited, is Izzy Stradlin, who wrote the majority of it, who came up with a lot of those monster riffs. I mean,
right.
you know, Axl did his thing, you know, Slash, Duff, all those guys, but you're not going to have that great of an album without great songs. Izzy Stradlin, unfortunately, kind of got the raw end of the stick in the GNR spectrum as far as I'm concerned, but he's gone on to make terrific solo albums, but he is the one who really gets the least amount of recognition, I think, in the GNR pantheon, if you will. So
I agree. Well, guys, you've got our top 5 right there. If you head over to the website, like we said, over at therockoffice.com, you can check out where we're going to post our full top 10 lists, so you'll get a whole nother 10 that you can look at. You know, let us know what you think.
Yeah, please give us, what did we miss? We don't know. I mean, that's a whole decade.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a whole nother 5 that you haven't heard.
Actually, there's a whole nother 7. I put 2 honorable mentions because I couldn't.
You can never play by the rules.
I know.
Never play by the rules.
But hey, I'm letting people know about good music they might know about.
Oh, it was the 80s. I'm sure they should know about it by now.
Well.
Anyhow, there you go. There's our top 10.
All right. Let us know what you think. Enjoy. All right. It's my pleasure now to bring you our exclusive interview with Tom Keifer. Many of you will know him as the lead singer of Cinderella. They had a bunch of top 40 hits in the 80s, sold about 14 million albums, but he was counting at that point. And he is on the road now promoting his new album. It's called The Way Life Goes, and it is great. It's just harkens back to the time with true rock riffs, a lot of just bluesy, excellent playing, excellent musicianship, and it's just such a pleasure for him to call and speak with us. So, Tom, I just want to thank you for taking your time calling in today and speaking with us.
Yeah, man, good to talk to you.
Awesome, thank you. Well, the first question I have for you is, I know that it's been very well documented. You've had some issues with your throat over the years, and I just want to ask, how are you doing? How's the throat? You know, especially with you having to perform every night. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good with it. In recent years, my voice problems have I've gotten a better hold on them, I guess is a good way to put it.
Okay.
I've worked with a lot of coaches over the years, and the last one that I worked with in the last 4 years here has really helped me to bring it over. It's not something that there's really a cure for, the condition that I have, so it's a constant maintenance thing, but I think I've gotten to a place where I have a pretty good handle on it, and it's been feeling strong. So
awesome, that's great to hear. I'm definitely glad to hear that. Now, The Way Life Goes is a very impressive album. I just love it. Love the hooks. Love the catchy, the punch, the rock. So thank you for doing your hand for bringing rock and roll back to the masses. But, you know, tell me a little bit about the album. Is there, you know, some kind of a statement that you're trying to make with the title, or, you know, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I don't think there's any message I'm trying to convey. We picked that title for the record because it really summed up, I guess, you know, the lyrics are about life and life experience. So that song and that title felt fitting for it to be the title track. So.
Okay, cool. Okay, with the songs that you've written here, I was wondering, why did you forego making a Cinderella album, as it were, and decided to do a solo effort? Because it seems like these songs would have lent well for a Cinderella album.
Well, I'm sure that we could have cut a lot of these that way, but it's, you know, I started recording this record during a period where we legally couldn't record as a band. So we were on the heels of a record deal that had gone south and ended up in the courts, and we never made the record that we were supposed to make under that deal. And while we were tied up during re-record restrictions is when I started recording my solo record independently of a label.
Okay.
So, you know, that was how it came about. And that was back in 2003. And I didn't really plan on spending 10 years making the record, but since I didn't have a label involved or a budget or a deadline or a release date, I could take my time, and that was a nice luxury to have. And I just kept working on it until it felt right.
Awesome. That's great. Well, you know, tell me a little bit about the recording, the writing for this project, maybe some of the people that you worked with, where you recorded it at.
Well, I produced the record with Savannah, my wife, and Chuck Turner, who was an engineer producer from Nashville. So the three of us were the producers.
Okay.
And like I said, we produced it independently of a label, so we just worked at our own pace. And had some amazing musicians from Nashville who played, you know, the rhythm section for the whole record are the same drummer and bass player.
Okay.
Greg Morrow on drums and Michael Rhodes on bass, who are really amazing musicians. And big session players in Nashville as well. So they added so much, you know, to the record. And most of the guitar work I did myself.
Okay.
But I did have, you know, a few guest guitars on the record as well. So.
Cool. Very good. If I'm allowed, may I ask you about the status of Cinderella? What's going on with you guys? Are we going to ever see or hear anything new from you guys?
Well, we took a break this year intentionally. We had toured pretty heavy the last 3 years, and at the end of the tour last year, we decided to take a little breather. So I'm sure that we'll be back out touring again at some point. But right now, we're just on probably a much-needed rest. So.
All right. Well, I know you just released the new album, Tom. So, you know, tell the fans what's on the horizon for you the next, 6 months or a year. What can we expect to hear from you?
Well, the record's just come out, so we're on tour supporting that, and I've just kind of cleared the runway for the next year or so here to see where this all leads. You know, it's been a long time since I've had a record out, and certainly I've never had a solo record out before. So this is going to be it's a very different ride than what I'm used to over the recent years with Cinderella, where we go out and tour, and it's kind of a definitive amount of time each year. So I don't really know what to expect. You know, it's kind of a wait and see, and see where the record leads us all. So.
Okay, cool. One question we ask all of our guests on the show is about physical music versus digital music, CDs and LPs versus downloading and things of that nature. And we'd like to find out from our guests where they stand on the issue, if they're, very much for the physical copies, keeping that alive and well, or if they're leaning more towards the digital downloading world. And what are your opinions? What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, I think there's something cool about having that physical thing in your hand, whether it's an LP or it's CD. And I think that there's also something about the experience of going to a record store. And, I used to love going to Tower Records and just, when I had an hour to kill, it was a great way to do it, and you almost get into this meditative place, just this real, I remember just feeling very calm walking through Tower Records, almost like a library, because it's so quiet, and, it's the library that houses all the great musical work,
Right.
And it was so cool to be able to go into a big record store like that and just thumb through all the different records and pick them up and look at the artwork and the credits and all, and, I miss that, and I think that's an experience that, you can't download.
Right.
And it's a cool one, and I miss it.
Yeah, me too. I hear you. I totally agree with you on that. Where can people go to find out more information about you? Website? Do you have a Facebook or Twitter or anything like that where people can find the new album?
Yeah, I have Twitter. Twitter is Tom Keifer Music, and there's an Facebook, Tom Keifer Official, I think it's called. And TomKeifer.com is also the website. Okay,
very good. Tom, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know, like I said, you're on the road, you're calling, and we really, really appreciate it. Lifelong fans of you and your music, and we at the Rock Office thank you and appreciate what you're doing. Much luck and success on this tour, and we look forward to hopefully catching up with you next time you're in Cleveland. So take care and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we want to thank Tom for calling in. The connection was kind of crackly there, but like I said, he was on the road on his current tour for his new album, The Way Life Goes. Make sure you go to your local record store and pick this up because it's a great album. It's just like I said, it's just a classic, just a rock, blues, kind of a feel-good, a little bit of singer-songwriters, a little bit of stuff in there for everybody. And Once again, thank you, Mr. Keifer, for calling in. We appreciate it. Thanks to your manager, Amanda, for making all this work for us, too. All right. All right, well, that was our episode. We want to thank Tom Keifer for taking the time on the road and calling in and speaking with us. Great guy. His album, The Way Life Goes, is really good. Check it out. Go out there, buy it. Support what he's doing. Look for him when he comes to a town near you. I want to also thank his manager, Amanda, who worked diligently with me to arrange this. Thank you, Amanda, for all your hard work. We really do appreciate it. Kevin.
Yeah, make sure you do check out the album. I think you'll like it, especially if you're liking everything that we're talking about today, or if you remember that hard rock of the 80s. It's going to really take you back to that point in time where you really, when rock and roll was rock and roll, man, and that's what it comes down to.
When the men dress like women, but rock like men.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, so we do appreciate it also, once again, for Tom to take that time and give it to us. We certainly appreciate it. That's good stuff. Yeah.
Also, please remember to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/rockoffice. We're also on Twitter at _rock_office. And now we are on the web, the World Wide Web, officially, therockoffice.com, where you can see some of our past episodes. You can read our articles, our full top 10 list from this episode will be there, as well as some of our past picks and
some photos that we get the opportunity to take with artists or of artists when we get the chance to go out and meet them or to check them out at shows.
Yeah. And make sure you sign up for our mailing list. Just go to the contact page and hit us up, and we'll be sure to let you know when we'll be out and about and doing our thing. So. Yeah. All right. Well, as always, thank you guys for your support. We love hearing from you, at least the nice things you say towards us and about us.
I don't mind either one. You can keep it coming either way. I don't care.
I haven't got that tough of a skin yet.
You get there.
Remember to support your local independent record stores by buying the physical copy of music instead of the digital download. We will see you next time on The Rock Office. Take care and God bless.